That's the other thing. Terrible thing. I don't fucking believe in God.
That's the other thing. You see, you muck it up, right? Because obviously, Jewishness is a doctrine you could follow. Judaism is just a doctrine. It has no race.
Yeah.
Right? But being Jewish is a bloodline as well, so it's the odd one out, unlike other religions.
Well, it confuses people a lot.
Yes.
Because I am a Jewish atheist.
Yes.
In fact, I describe myself as a fundamentalist atheist, but Jewish. And that is something only available to Jews, really.
But
if you say you're a Christian, you can't then say you're an atheist. But you can say, I'm Jewish and an atheist. And Jews will understand what you mean.
Yeah.
But
because all other religions are just an idea or doctrine to follow. They're not literally a bloodline, because you can convert. Now, you can convert to Judaism, but I couldn't call myself a Jew.
Yeah, you could.
Well, I could say I follow the Jewish faith, I follow Judaism.
Right.
But you've just contradicted yourself.
Have I?
I can't become racially a Jew.
If you can't come... Well,
because my mother isn't Jewish.
Well, here's a thing. We've got into a big thing here, which is when I talk about racism towards Jews on Twitter, which I do a lot as well, some quite stupid people will instantly start saying, well, Jews aren't a race. They aren't a race, right? Because they go into that thing about the bloodline or not the bloodline. But here's the thing. Race only really exists as a category idea because of racism, right? It doesn't really matter what a race is or isn't in a bloodline in my terms.
No, because it's such a movable feast, and it's a matter of
But we only have racism. We only have race as an idea because of the racist. So here's the thing: I am Jewish by blood or whatever, but I completely don't believe in any of it. Completely don't believe in any of it.
So you don't follow Judaism.
Yeah, but here's the thing: if we were living during the war, the Gestapo, they'd shoot me tomorrow. It'd be no good saying to the bloke in the big black coat and the gun, you know what? I don't believe in any of it. He really wouldn't care.
No, of course not.
So the point is that you have to think of anti-Semitism as racism, because the racists will still think of you as a race.
Of course.
However you think about Judaism.
Of course. It wasn't. They weren't offended by what religion you followed.
No, it was totally a blood thing.
It was a people's that they wanted to get.
So the question is, would you be shot by the Nazis for converting? I've never actually considered this before. I don't think you would be.
Well, I probably would be if
I don't think it would go down well.
If I showed solidarity, because Jewish sympathisers were.
Yeah, okay, but what if you just?
I'd be killed anyway as an atheist.
No, they didn't kill atheists, did they? No, they didn't kill atheists. I don't think so.
They probably annoyed him a bit, didn't they?
No, well, you might look. I would hope that there would be things that you.
This is
believe
another
personally.
myth we should bust on Twitter, that people say Hitler was atheist.
Yeah, I don't know whether he was or wasn't.
He wasn't.
He was a vegetarian. People go on about that, and he liked dogs.
Yes, no, he was I think a Catholic, and he even said at one point, "I'm doing God's work."
Yeah. Well, one of the things about evil in the world that I think is not as understood as it should be is that there's almost no one in the world history who's actually been evil in the way they understand themselves. Evil is always put forward mostly by people who think they're doing great things. So there's no one in the world who's like Dr. Evil or like a Bond villain.
No.
The really terrible people in the world have all thought they were great blokes.
Because it comes down to one person's narcissism, usually.
Yeah.
All the terrible things that happened, it wasn't just a sudden swell of movement or a gathering and understanding.
Yeah.
It was one person who had something about them, or a chip on their shoulder, or that.
But that's very important, I think. That's very important with Trump and all the rest of them, is that, when Trump's having a go at Kim Jong-un, I always think, well, you basically are Kim Jong-un if Kim Jong-un lived in a democracy where people were criticising him.
Yeah.
Because you say exactly the same furious, raged narcissism. Man baby sense that you should be right about everything.
Well, it's entitlement.
But he's kept away from anyone criticising him by the virtue of his anti-aircraft guns that he will kill people with.
And he's in a literal dictatorship. Yeah. As opposed to...
in terms of personality-wise...
Of course.
It's all about using state power to just serve an enormous hole in your ego. That seems to me to be what has always created terrible things in the world. So when people go on about, communism's terrible because it's done this, even to some extent you could say the same about Nazism. It's a bad ideology, don't get me wrong. But really, the problem is it's a projection of mainly men. It's always men, really, and their terrible narcissistic fears about themselves, and therefore how can I make myself feel like more of a man? oh, I know what, I'll wear this outfit and I'll kill people.
This was the intro. I mean, this was me saying, this is David Baddiel. We went through...
I think we've done all right.
We went through the Holocaust to Trump, to Kim Jong-un.
To what's created all the evil in the world ever.